welcome. It's good to see you ladies again.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Well, welcome back to Pretty Smart. We're going to do a part 2 off of last week, homeschool versus public school versus private school. So I'm really excited because last week it was just me and Darvanique, right? Well, this week we get a lot more opinions, and a lot of you have children and have really good insight on this. So, Taishay, I'm going to start with you. How are you? You look beautiful.
Yes, I agree.
Let's start with you. Tell me, what are your opinions of homeschool versus private school? And tell us also what your son's in.
So right now he's in public school. Homeschool, I feel like homeschool, private school, and public schools, they should all have equal education regardless. Homeschooling, I would prefer. I just want to make sure I have the time to do that for my son. But while he's in public school, I do pay attention to what they're learning, and I do add to that so that he gets a better understanding of everything and gets more than what public school has to offer. Unfortunately, I feel like public schools is like at the bottom of the barrel, unfortunately, for learning everything. And so I feel like definitely with public schools, private schools, and even homeschooling, there definitely should be like a ground of like everyone gets the same amount of education. And we need to fix a lot of the stuff that's going on because I don't know. I feel like they're not getting the proper education regardless. So
yeah, I would agree.
Absolutely.
Lena, Tracy, anybody chime in? What do you guys think?
I agree with Ty. I actually homeschool my son, and soon to be daughter. She's turning 1 soon. But I've been through public school. That's where I was. That was where I was. My mom taught in public school, and I just saw some things that I didn't necessarily agree with. Children don't learn on the same level, so that's why I chose to homeschool. I feel like I can, more hone in on what he needs and when he needs it versus, it's just a cookie cutter version of education for me in public school. Now, private school is a little different. You can kind of pick and choose, but I still kind of feel like it's a little cookie cutter for me.
Okay. I like that you said that because it's interesting. I don't know. Darvanique last week had said something about how her experiences were better in private school with her daughter than public school. And so you prefer homeschooling. If you had to choose between private and public, you would go more
private for sure.
For sure. Okay. All right. Tracy, what do you think? Oh, can we
talking? And
then hear you.
No, the wise words of Tracy. Okay.
Namaste.
Namaste, Tracy. We can't hear you. No. No. I don't know. Okay, well, I'm going to let you talk, Camille. I'm going to you, Doctor.
Okay, darling. Hello, everybody. Honestly, my son is 20 years old now, and when we first started, I gave him a private school experience, and it looked like Disneyland, and he got one-on-one individualized attention, and he was really happy. And then we tried private school. In private school, he had more children to deal with. He had to kind of connect with kids on his own level as opposed to, trying to spend some time with the adults. But the curriculum definitely was more advanced in the private school versus public school was definitely kind of lagging behind the national average. So it really is about the family and what their goals are. I personally, if I had the opportunity, I would have been able to homeschool them if I had a chance. That's the best because you know exactly what Lena was saying. You know what your kid needs when they need it and how they need it. And who can better do that than mom?
Okay. Yes.
I love to feel that.
Yes,
Mom. Feel it. We're going to MJP.
Absolutely. Good evening. Ladies, good evening. So I was giving this a lot of thought. My daughter is in her 30s, so stepdaughter, but that's my daughter, and my son is right now in charter school at 6, and this is his first foray, our first foray, and I'm just kind of not sure either. But I would say that the experience so far in charter school has been good. He's got that one-on-one attention. He's got some of those enrichments and things that I think would have been missing in the public school.
Mm.
So I know for myself, I got such a benefit being in private school. I was in private school from up until fourth grade, and by that point, my dad died. We just couldn't afford it anymore. But even that foundation was just it was just incredible, and that's what I want for him. Even if we can't do the full 12, which my husband and I are really striving to do. But I think homeschooling is just I would love to do that. And so one of the things that we were thinking about, and Lena, I would love to pick your brain about how you settled on how you chose the curriculum or which curriculum, because there's just so many. But there's something that we want to do is to augment whatever he's doing in school with some homeschooling, something that's libertarian based or something that's more of a Black studies kind of, you know, bent to it. Certainly, what we've been doing so far is exposing into Haitian culture and Haitian history. So he's got that, but that's not really formalized into a curriculum. So I'd love to hear more about how what was your vetting process? What was your thought process behind what you chose as a
Well,
curriculum?
my children aren't as old as some of your children. My son, he's only 4. He'll be 5 in August. So we're still kind of in like the test and see what works stage. Um, we tried a few. One was Power School, and then through Power School, they have this other program when they get older, like 5. It's called a Celis, and so that's the one we're working with now. But like you said, I throw in, the things that I feel he needs to know, especially as a Black man. Not, you're gonna be a Black man one day. You need to know certain things of your culture so that you can really navigate life and come back home to mama. Like, I need you to be safe. I
Yeah,
need you to know life. And to me, it's just I'm piecing it together. And I like Dr. Camille was saying, yes, I definitely pay attention to what he needs, when he needs it, how he needs it, because my son is very peculiar. He,
yeah,
he has to have things just so. He doesn't want his food touching. And then I have to teach him when he's ready to receive it. And I think that's what happens with a lot of students is when they're taught things they're not ready to receive, and it doesn't stick. So if I see he's not interested in something, okay, we'll come back to this. We'll move on to something else. And I think a lot of teachers forget to see where a child needs certain things.
yeah. It's because they have to meet this deadline, you know.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
It's crazy because a lot of you say you would prefer private school, and like, MJ, you're saying you want to keep your son in private school, and think about how expensive it is. It really truly is expensive.
Mhm.
And so they have the funding, they have the resources because parents pay so much for their child to go there, whereas public school is where, most kids go, I feel, because it's most people can't afford that. And so it's crazy because there is a lot of lacking in education in a lot of things, and especially in public school, teachers do not have time to move on with a whole class of 30 students. And Lena, you make a good point. That's super important to learning.
Yeah.
If they're not ready to receive, why would they learn it? And
Mhm.
then they're just told they get these bad grades and you're just failing and you're failing, and then it creates a whole nother issue.
Absolutely, absolutely. I would say
It's
more.
interesting. Oh, I'm
Please,
sorry. Go ahead, MJ.
no, please, doctor, come on.
Well,
Not
what I was
every
thinking
public
about,
school.
I'm
No,
ready. I'm ready.
no.
I'm
You're
scared.
what I was thinking
I
about
went to
was
public school. Okay.
discipline, and I'm coming from the background of restorative justice, and restorative justice is, the opportunity to fill in the gaps for when the regular criminal justice system vilifies us. And so I really appreciate, like, in private schools they deal with things a lot differently, or at least they have the space, the curriculum to deal with things in a different manner. versus the public schools. I think they're very punitive. Like anything that happens, the kids automatically is sent to the office. They're already disciplined with a hard rule. And I just hope that we can start to bring in more of the holistic practices, meditation, and things of that nature to help our kids deal with anxiety and depression and stress.
I'm with you, Dr. Camille. I'm with you.
Yes, I agree.
I'm
Definitely.
with you. Yes. If only my teacher said, "Can we meditate class?" Yes.
Okay, I can go about my day now. Okay.
Yes.
That's what you just need to reset. And a lot of kids,
Yeah.
that's what's happening. They just need to reset. Maybe they're coming from a rough household and they're getting to school and this is like their safe haven. And then you send them to the office because they did something. They're talking, you know. And that's the other thing. A lot of people are like, oh, with not being in public school or not being in private school, being homeschooled. Um,
Cute. So basically, you're also, yeah. Yeah. No. No, we're not. Go
but,
ahead.
but basically, like they say that kids are going to be socially awkward. It doesn't have to be the case with homeschooling. I have my son. He's only 4, but we have him in martial arts. We take him to the park every day. Those are interactions. That's where you're able
Yeah.
to meet and have friends.
Yeah.
School to me is not a place to have friends. Not to have friends, but to try and make friends. Because half the time they're telling you what? Be quiet, sit down, do your work. So where is the opportunity to make friends? Especially when you start getting in those older grades, there's no recess. So school, I feel like school should be something that's okay. We're gonna learn here, and then now you can go play.
Yeah.
That's crazy, Lena. I remember growing up and I remember having an opportunity to go to home economics and learning how to bake, learning how to cook my favorite meals, or even going to like sew an apron. Remember, it was like
Yeah.
music. They're taking everything out of our Western educational school systems, and we're very, very low ranking on the global totem pole.
Oh,
And it
very
just kind of like makes you wonder, like the schools, if you look at them, and this is my personal opinion, you guys, out there, you can agree, you can disagree, but I just feel like our educational system is being ran like penitentiaries. We have more penitentiaries that's being built and being privatized and making money off of. And now it's just like the school systems, the food looks the same, the buses looks the same, the ways in which we operate, it's so much controlled and it's the same. And it makes me wonder, like, what are we really doing here in America?
Absolutely. There's the element of programming is just all through there. When it comes to even stripping them of their identity in a lot of ways. Yes, the dress code is much more relaxed, but in terms of what they believe, what they want to say, their critical thinking skills, all of those things are taken away or minimized in such a sense where, yeah, they're creating great workers, they're creating great robots, they're creating great employees, not necessarily creators, not necessarily of a creative bent or anything.
That's
And
exactly what they're
so,
doing.
I mean, that's why I would say, like, when it comes to the private schools, they've got scholarships. Don't necessarily count them out. There's all kinds of ways. I wish that I had known those things prior. I probably would have just been a lot more. But when it comes to, all that kind of stuff, I think it's really
Oh,
important. And another thing I think that's important that homeschooling does, and even some of those other alternatives to private school, is I think they understand that each kid learns differently. And their biorhythm can be that maybe in the morning they're not as ready to absorb information as they are in the evening or in the afternoon or so on and so forth.
yeah.
So I found that there was a lot more breathing room, a lot more flexibility to deal with the kid on an individual basis. Not necessarily maybe one-on-one, that may not be the case, but even dealing with that person, that child as a child, right? I saw this one like YouTube clip where the teacher like had a handshake, a special handshake for each kid.
Yeah.
I love that. Or when they start them off with affirmations, as soon as they walk into the classroom, they get a positive affirmation. I love that.
I love that as well. Those
Yeah,
are
me
all
too.
those kinds of ways that we reinforcing that these children matter. Whereas I think when Alina had mentioned before, they may be coming from situations where they are not affirmed that way. Um,
Absolutely.
and I know if they're coming from immigrant backgrounds, Haitian backgrounds, they may really not. I don't want to generalize everybody, but typically you're coming from a see and not heard kind of home. So it's very freeing to kind of kind of come into a social environment, school environment where you're able to get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure.
Mm.
For sure.
That's
When
some
it
really good
comes to
points you
homeschooling,
made.
are there like groups and stuff that
Hmm.
that you found helpful?
There's communities, like, guys. That's why I say it's not people that choose to be socially awkward with homeschooling. That's because they did not go out and do the research. There
No.
are communities for homeschooling. You know, they even have, like, homeschooling doesn't, like you said, doesn't have to be that one child or the
Mhm.
kids in the household. You
Yeah.
can do the community within your your area. And okay, I'm a teacher for the day. I'm gonna make sure they get their work done. You work it together. It's a community thing. It's not
Yeah.
this is just my kid. You start. It's a community,
Yeah.
definitely.
I love that. I think homeschooling's awesome. I mean, what's your advice to people who are thinking about homeschooling? What would you
Definitely do
say?
your research. And then knowing your child, like the programs, every program is not the same, but knowing your child and there's gonna be trial and error, but knowing your child is definitely tops. And then doing your research and seeing what my child likes, what what path, like is your like how the learning types you
Mhm.
have, like kinetic or I can't think of all of them, but you have to see how your child like really learns. Do they learn hands on? Do they learn by lecture, or do they learn by doing? So like it's just really paying attention. That it takes work.
What
Definitely
are some of
homeschooling
the
takes work. If you don't have the time, I would definitely not suggest it.
How do
Good.
you benchmark it? Like, in schools they've got standardized tests. How are you as a homeschooler able to benchmark their success?
So that's where the programs come in. So you decide, okay, how do I want um, my grading to go. The one I use now, Astellas or Power School, they work together. They actually do all that for you. They have the lessons laid out. They do the grading. You get report cards. They have teachers that come in and help students with certain things. Like I'm more so with the homeschooling that I use. I'm more so like that second in command. Like I'm there. I'm making sure he's getting his work done. If he has questions, help answer
Mhm.
them, things of that nature. But they do have teachers that teach for you. You don't have to do the teaching. You don't have to come up with the lesson plan. So they're making homeschooling much easier, especially now because of COVID and everything. But it's becoming a whole lot easier and actually somewhat more of a norm for those
I
parents that
love that. Now, see, that's what I really like a lot because normalizing taking our power back and being moms again, being the original teachers again, which is so very much important right now. Like, come on, guys. I mean, in Western America, every single system I feel is failing us. Education, the legal, the healthcare. At this point in time, we're all we've got. Like, we have to make this work. And then I read that there was this quote about, I'm so sorry, I can't remember the original source, but it was a gentleman that talked about the educational system, public schools. When you send your kids to public schools, they'll get indoctrinated. When you send them to private schools and give them that one-on-one teaching, then they get educated. So it's like a class system too. The rich, their kids get educated because they're being trained to be the next leaders of America, to be the next politicians, to be the doctors, the lawyers. And even China, they're making sure their TikTok algorithms are monitored and giving you positive, visualizations of what you want to be versus our algorithms.
Negative, negative.
The buffoonery is, the negative buffoonery and all the things that does not matter is what's getting highlighted. So I commend all the moms who are trying, if you have time, because I know it doesn't work just because of your lifestyles. You may be a single mom, you may not have the luxury, but if you can, I love Lena that you're like, there's options out there, do research. You might find that this is a great way to educate your kids.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I feel like even if you can't do the homeschooling curriculum, anytime that as moms we can spend locked in, engaged, right?
Yes.
Um,
Reading a book at
reading,
night.
taking them to things. I just took my JoJo to the Van Gogh experience
Oh,
2 weekends ago. It was amazing. It was, and again, that wasn't. Uh, there may not be a traditional schooling thing, but
yeah.
he got that education nonetheless. So
Yeah.
That.
Miss Tracy, it's so good to see you on here.
Welcome back.
I'm hoping you can hear me now.
Yes.
Yeah.
and I'm
It's
enjoying
been
the
so long.
It's been a long time. Happy 2023, graduating.
Yes.
Happy
Thank
23.
you.
Hey.
And I'm definitely enjoying the convo. I'm learning a lot. And listening to the homeschool versus public school versus private school combo because it's
Yes.
something that I have been talking about for a long time. Because I went to private school, elementary, middle school. I was in private school, and all my friends were in public school. So when I'd go back, I lived in the hood, but just got bust out. And when I'd go back, and the things that they didn't know was amazing to me, just absolutely
Mm-hmm.
amazing to me. So by the time I was in eighth grade, I was already taking college courses. We were studying for
Mhm.
the SATs. Well, my friends didn't even know what the SATs were. Well, I mean, what are you talking about? We're about ready to enter high school, guys, and you don't know what the
Right.
SATs? But that's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
See?
difference. We didn't have old books. We had new books. I
Mhm.
mean, we didn't have anything old. So it was like, wow, my friends are using books that maybe their older siblings had to use. They're passed down.
Mhm.
We didn't have
Yep.
that. We didn't have that. And I want to say language arts. You had to have a foreign language. That was an absolute must. I don't think they do
Mhm.
that anymore.
It's not required. It's an elective.
Yeah.
An elective choice.
I have a question or like a interesting topic to bring up in accordance to this. So, I mean, I feel like we know the difference. There is a difference in public school, homeschooling, and private school. But I've also learned in high school that there was a difference in the public schooling depending on the neighborhoods as well. They have I don't know if they have it everywhere, but I know out here in Colorado they have this law where you have to go to the school that is in your neighborhood. Like they put
Mhm.
certain
Oh,
zip
yeah.
codes with that school.
Yeah.
And so with me and my sister, we got away with it by using our grandmother's address. And that was beneficial for us because we went to a school that was like predominantly white, I have to say. And it was still public, but we got
Mhm.
great education there. But then when we compared the other high schools, like the high schools that were in the neighborhood that we lived in,
Yeah.
like this isn't the best teaching. They don't have the best teachers there. They don't have the best education. They don't have the same books as
Right.
us. So it was just like,
No funding.
even
Yeah,
though it's
like
like
tax
still
base.
all of them are still public schools, the
Mhm.
neighborhoods are taught differently as well.
Mhm.
So I wanted to get into that. What is y'all's opinion on that? Have y'all experienced that at all?
Well, being that my mother was actually a teacher, and so she got to see what the budget was for their school and this, that, and the third. And we had a school less like in the same county as us, and their school got all the funding. We didn't get as much, so the things that we did get, most of the parents bought or the teachers bought. But the
Mhm.
one the school across, not even I would even say 20 miles up the road, it was just like they got everything. They had the new equipment. They had, they got fresh paint on the wall just about every year. It was just like, really? Why is the
And
kid?
field trips, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like
field trips.
exposure to different things when kids are impressionable. The first 5 to 7 years of a child's life is the most important time where they're getting all their downloads. And so it's like this society knows what it's doing. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm always having to watch myself and be careful because I'm like, yeah, we need to escape this damn matrix because this society knows what it's doing, especially to our
Yeah.
kids
Mhm.
who are disadvantaged, disenfranchised, and we've got to find other ways to help kind of like light that flame in our kids again.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's
I feel like
well,
especially in these
it's
times now, it's really up to us as parents to make sure that our kids get the education that we wanted growing up, you know?
yeah.
And I do that with my son now. Me and his father, we always read books with him. We always teach him stuff
Mhm.
outside of school. We do ask him what he learns in school, and then we tie it into what we know. And that helps him out a lot. He's actually ahead in his school now because of that. And with him being a preemie, they're like, wow, like we can't believe that he's actually ahead.
Yeah.
So it is definitely
Awesome.
beneficial for parents to take that role. I mean, I know
Yeah.
it's like a break for us, but we still have to, be in there and getting to know what they're learning and adding on to that. And a lot of the stuff that we know now, they're probably still not teaching them. So we definitely need to educate them as well. We have to play teachers as well.
And I'll tack on to what the gem that Ty just dropped, because the thing is that we also have to advocate for our kids too, because there are medicine sees color, and so does education. I was reading an article way back. They did a study on teachers, right? They took these teachers and they wanted to see basically who they're focusing on. So they took these teachers, and there was these 4 kids, and they told the teachers that they were tracking something else, but they were you missed Dr. Amaya?
Yes.
So they were tracking the teachers' eye movements while they were watching the kids, and there was 4 kids. One of them was Black, I believe, and then the others were different races and so forth. And I don't remember the percentage, so excuse me, but it was overwhelmingly the majority that the teachers were tracking what the little Black boy was doing, and they were just playing. So when it comes to teachers watching, and then they also did a study again, I think in high school, in Texas, where once again the kids that were getting more of the targies or more of the slips or whatever they call them, we call them 14 18s or something, but infractions were Black kids, but they made up the majority of the school. So I know from our vantage point with kindergarten, we've been advocating meetings, what's going on, sending emails. I'll say in one instance, a teacher made a reference to my son and like described him in a way. And, I went back to her and I said, words are powerful. My son has never done that. He's been rambunctious, but we're not going to say that he's uncontrollable or anything like that. Ma'am. Those words have power over our kids. And so wherever we are in, whether it's public school, whether it's private or charter or a mixture of both, I feel so strongly, and I know you ladies feel the same way, about really stepping in for our kids. When they're wrong, they're wrong. When my kid is wrong, he's wrong. I know my baby.
Okay, wait. Let's talk about some wrong things too, because today I did see something very alarming, which is the flip side of the equation, and that's the violence that's taking place against the teachers.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes.
Right. So last week we there was a story that came out, and a student was being chastised by the teacher who was white, and the student was Black, and she was yelling at him and really being very accusatory towards him. And she was saying that, how do they act at home? Do they allow this at home? Does your dad beat your mom or something like that? It was really, really out of line and unprofessional. And then this week, there was a student that physically attacked a teacher, like wrestled them to the ground, attacked and gave them a concussion and threatened their lives. I mean, so on both sides, I think like the public school systems, it's some very telltale signs that there's something very, very wrong with this.
Yeah.
And
that's what parents need to be involved
more of the first part, more of the first scenario where the teachers, I know myself, been called a Negro. And so I've seen more of that from the teachers towards the students, but I'm not taking anything away from that. Definitely the aggression from these kids, and it's a wonder as to where they're coming from. What are they seeing? Yeah.
They are assholes. Some of the teachers are
They learned it from somewhere.
Yeah.
See that from somewhere.
Some of the kids
That will never change. I feel like all the way back in our day in school, the kids were assholes then too.
We had issues too, right?
Hey, I want to say I watched this documentary of these people that were filming classrooms, and they would get these parents that when they would tell them what the kids did, they go, "Not my baby. My baby's an angel." And so they sit the parent in and they watch the class the whole day, and the things they're seeing their kid do, they're like,
oh my goodness.
Can we be surprised when babies ain't all sweet?
Yeah. We do pop-ups. We do pop-ups. So I mean, as a kid, my mom stayed in school because this girl was bad. I gotta admit, I was bad. So yeah, I learned that from my mother. You got to pop in on your kids sometime, because sometimes the teachers are wrong, sometimes the kids are wrong, but you're not going to know if you're not there paying attention. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, I'll sneak up on my son with a quickness and see what he's getting into. But for the
Mhm.
most part, he's a good kid. So I'm just like, whenever, I don't really have that issue just yet. He's only in first grade, but I'm sure it's gonna get to that point where I'm gonna get the phone call and I'm just like,
oh,
hop up on him and see what's
I'm
going on.
getting them now.
Hey, when I was a kid, I got a whooping in front of my whole class. So I don't think we could do that now, but you
No,
got to get
ma'am.
involved. You have to be involved. And there were
True.
other times where Camille had mentioned the teachers asking the parents about what's going on in the household.
Mhm.
And I've experienced that too, where my dad, he was, he came up to the school because I got in trouble by a teacher, and the principal asked him, like, I don't know what's going on in your household, but
Mhm.
he went left.
Mhm.
Like at first it was more so like, he's disappointed in me, but as soon as she said that, he was like, no, y'all the problem. And so
Right.
I do feel like you definitely have to be involved. You can't really take sides. Don't be biased. You have to just get involved and see what's going on. See
Mhm.
how your kid is reacting to the teachers. See how
Yeah.
your teachers are reacting to the kids. That is very important.
Yeah. It's crazy because I guess, like, I went to public school, and I feel like my public school had really good in terms of education.
Mhm.
Um, like I call them like a rich public school. I feel like my public school had money,
Yeah, that's how mine was. Mhm.
right? I feel like that, and I feel like it was predominantly white. And um, my thing is, though, kind of referring to what we've all been talking about. I'm kind of going off subject on
Mhm.
just you guys are talking about. Lena, you were saying, or you guys were talking about, or MJ, I'm sorry, that was you talking about how they watched the black kid, or the black boy. Here's the thing. I feel like that's so true because I think back to school. Okay, we had great math, we had great chemistry and science, but you get to history, and everything was very whitewashed.
Yes.
And I
Mhm.
think
Oh
back
yeah,
to it
definitely
now,
history.
that's my biggest thing about public school. I was like,
Yeah.
all that I've learned now, I'm like, they taught Christopher Columbus was a freaking hero. Like,
Yep.
what?
Yeah. That's what we
Right.
learned too.
Right.
So
We
now
all know
I
that that
feel
is not the truth.
so when you were saying things like that, I was thinking that, and I was like, wow, that's so crazy because we focused completely on, like, when the whole concentration camps happened,
Yeah.
and those were important to know every little horrible detail that happened.
Mhm. Or we could
But
learn all about Greek mythology, things that didn't
don't
really
bring up
necessarily
slavery.
happen.
Yeah, we can talk about that. But slavery is
yes.
out of the question. When you killed the natives, that was out of the question. It was all very. It's just interesting. Made me
Watered
think.
down.
Watered down, and now critical race theory. They're fighting for that to be gone. So
Mhm.
Well, they're trying to take the Bible out of this
Oh,
situation now. It's like, okay, we're just gonna bypass everything and just take the Bible out. Take Bible out, take religion out. Let's just I mean, I feel like
well, do you
this is
think
becoming
religion
a free
should be
for
in public schools?
well, I'm not it's not necessarily about taking religion out of public schools. What I'm concerned about is taking morality out
Yep,
of
because that's what's gonna
society.
happen.
That's
Yeah.
that's what's really being boiled down here is
Yeah,
you're taking down your standards, your morality, your values, and really what values then are we adopting? What really are you gonna put back in place? I may not agree with everything having to do with religion and religious institutions, but I do know the difference between right and wrong.
yeah,
And what we're working with right now is just some very wrong things in our educational system that we really need to
oh, yeah,
fix. And if we can't fix it, then that means as parents, we need to put ourselves in a position so that we can do those. We can come through for our kids in this way and teach them.
yeah.
So that might mean starting a business. That might mean
Yeah, for sure.
learning about financial literacy, learning more about investing in digital currencies, having multiple streams of income so that we're not just relying on one. So we can have our time back. We can
Mhm.
have our freedom back. We can have our families again. Like this is
Absolutely.
getting so ridiculous
Mhm.
at this
Mhm.
point. It's like, what are we going to do? What can we do to make a change?
Yeah, we should be teaching planting and taxes and
Definitely taxes.
building business
Entrepreneurship. Yes.
entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Nobody should be going to college
Self-healing.
for business. We should learn that. Like,
Yes. Yes.
just saying.
Just saying.
Hey,
You're right.
we should have been learned that. Okay.
I have a pretty sensitive question. It's kind of touchy, and I hope I don't offend anyone. But I do want to know how you guys feel about how they're kind of taking out the gender roles.
Mm.
And I've learned that with my son now, because there's things that he'll do. And sometimes, growing up, I mean, honestly, growing up, we had gender roles. So there were some things that, he would bring up and I say, no, that's for girls, or, something like that. And he'll be like, no, in school, they say we can do this. And it's like, at that point, it kind of like, I'm like, dang, like I know stuff is changing, but I still want to raise my son as a boy. So like, how do y'all feel about that? And how does it affect you? Like trying to teach your son one way, but they're teaching another. And then this is sensitive subjects nowadays where it's like, you have to be careful what you say. And so I really want to know your opinions on that. Should we be going towards getting rid of all the gender roles and letting our kids figure out what they want to be?
Not at all. I think kids need boundaries. Kids need structure. Kids need to know what's what, and let them, when they get older, make decisions for themselves. I think that that particular part of programming is very insidious, and if we're not careful, even watching what they watch. The other day, baby was watching some. I'm not going to name the program, but it was something on YouTube, and it was bouncy stuff, and all of a sudden, I see a gay hairdresser doing this thing. No, and it's like, my thing is that we're not going to program our kids. We're not going to allow society to program our kids. We're going to tell them about what they need to know when they need to know it, as far as we're concerned, because we are the parents. Okay. So I definitely hear what you're saying. I agree with, I think, Lena's face when you asked. She said, and I agree. Those gender roles. I mean, we can't rewrite thousands of years of just wiring in DNA just because somebody feels a small vocal minority decides that it's what it's going to be. And I hear you. There's times where baby would pick up something rainbow or pick up something red or whatever, pink. And I'd be like, baby, that's for boys. Let's show you this. And then I'll just deflect it and show them how fun it is to be a boy. Because at this age, you're just looking at what's fun and what's shiny.
Exactly.
You're not really having an agenda as far as we're concerned. So it's very insidious. And it's one of those that I constantly, and Andre has to pray about and keep watch on. And there was one time where I did have to say it in public, that's for boys. And this guy was like trying to say something to me like, oh no, he can do what he wants. Now, I had to use wisdom and not respond because I was, in a place by myself with my son with no help around. So, I couldn't, say what I wanted to say, but it's those instances where people want to speak on things that's none of their concern, and okay. So, no, I definitely agree with you, but it's hard. It's a hard thing to kind of see and keep away from your kids when it's so prevalent, I think.
I personally think that showing those types of things and bringing those types of things into schools is putting grown folks stuff on children.
Yeah.
That they don't know, oh, I'm a woman, I'm a man. You're born what you're born with. And until you have your realization, let that be an adult movement, because you're still learning yourself. You can't say, oh, I'm a they, or I'm a he, and you're actually a she. You don't know. You don't know who you are. You're still trying to figure out how to tie your shoes. You don't need to be sitting here trying to figure out. There's too much pressure. Make it light. Be a kid. That's too much.
So I personally don't think it would be right to talk about what you are. Are you male or are you female? But I don't think playing with a boy's toy as a girl, or a girl playing with a girl's toy, is a problem or would dictate your gender later on.
Depending on the toy.
The toy is not the problem. It's the conversation for me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I played with boys' toys all the time growing up. I had 10 brothers, and my brothers played with I don't think that really is a thing that determines. I think kids should play with whatever they want to play with, me personally. Go ahead, MJ.
No, please.
No, yeah, but I think, I think it would be inappropriate for anybody outside of the parents to talk about their kids' identity in terms of if they believe they're male or female. But in terms of toys, or in terms of like, I mean, MJ, to your point, in that video you were watching, did they address that it was a gay hairdresser, or did you just know it by who that person was? Because in that case, I don't think we should block out gay people from anything visual, because it would have to be if they're like making a point to it, like I'm gay, that would be one thing. But if
Mhm.
they're not, what's the issue with a gay person being in the video?
Good question, because it comes back to gender roles, right? So if they're seeing a male acting like a woman, right? Maybe it wasn't gay, but let's say this: it was a male acting like a woman, right? It's going to confuse them, and that's where we really don't need to be confusing kids. I grew up. My father raised us, and so I was around men and boys as well. I played with a lot of stuff. I wasn't raised girly, but like you, but the influence was different. I was just around who I was around. I watched what I watched. I wasn't indoctrinated by
Mhm.
school for a particular purpose, for a particular goal.
Hmm.
I was a tomboy, but I wasn't programmed like one. So I was allowed to do whatever. Now, when it comes to my son and what he wants to play with, again, if he has curiosity towards something, I'll never shut it down, because as you shut it down, they just have a natural propensity towards it,
Yeah, that's
whatever it is,
yeah.
Mhm.
good, bad, or indifferent. So what I'll do is, if he wants to play with it, we play with all kinds of stuff, feather stuff, whatever, whatever. My clothing and so forth when it came to like sensory stuff. But when it comes to me allowing him now at 6, almost 7, to dress like a boy or dress like in my dress, there's no need for that. You know what I'm saying? I hope that,
Mhm.
my delineation was clear. But no,
Yeah,
to your
yeah.
point,
Yeah,
yeah,
I understand.
he didn't say
I
he was
respect
gay.
Guidance.
all
Guidance is
people's
key.
opinions.
I do have a question. It's a little not off topic, more on topic. When it comes to choosing how you educate your children, do you ask them? Would you rather be homeschooled? Would you rather go to public school? Would you rather go to private school? Do you ask them, you know, what type of schooling they would like to have?
At this age, with my son being 6, I don't think he knows the difference. So
Mm-mm.
it's like, I mean, maybe once he gets older and he's learning, yes, I feel like he's gonna choose public because that's what he's used to. But
Hmm.
um, at the end of the day, it's based on what he's gonna get the best education from.
Yeah, for sure.
And like we said, unfortunately, right now the private schools and possibly homeschooling is best because you're paying for that, versus the public school where you're not really paying for that. So it kind of it doesn't you don't get the same education. So honestly, if I were to base it on what he would say, he would probably stick with the public school, not realizing that that's probably not the best education he's gonna get.
Do you think friends could play a role in that?
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
They don't want to leave their friends.
But I
Exactly.
love that, Taisha, because what I'm hearing you say is that you decided as a mom, as a parent, that's your role, and understanding that the child is a child, and you're protecting that innocence,
Hmm.
so to speak, so that you're deciding what's best, and it is based on what you can afford and where you live and all these other external factors.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you also recognize that the educational system isn't going to give your son or your daughter a full picture of what education is, and you'll have to fill in the gaps. That's the reality of
Exactly.
it.
Exactly.
We get to we get to provide our kids an educational experience. And I'll share this with you too, as an idea, because I thought this was genius. But there was another sister who decided to take her kids on a world tour and give them that educational
That's
experience.
what?
My goal.
So
This my
they're
goal.
That's lit.
right. They are going to, different countries and immersing themselves in different countries and languages and geography. Like, it doesn't get any better than that. And then she started a nonprofit organization teaching other mothers how to do the same thing.
I
So
love that.
through
Yeah.
adversity, we rise.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love
So
that.
I love that you brought that up, because growing up, my whole family's adopted. Okay. So my sister's adopted from Korea, and so my mom used to teach and also take us to these culture camps. Okay. And it was like we would go for weeks in and we learn about all these different cultures and different places. And then
Mhm.
it was really, really actually smart. And so when you brought that up, I thought of that. I'm like, that's a brilliant thing to really do. Even that's good for people who maybe don't have the means to travel. They could do something like that where they're still getting that education. You would build things like that and do things from other countries that they do. And it would be somebody, you know, who has experience or has lived in that country that understands. They would come teach and show. And I don't know, it's smart. I would love that. It's a great educational thing to travel. And yeah.
And
Yeah.
honestly, you know, a lot of people think, oh, because I don't have the money to do this, I can't do it. Yes, you can. You
Yeah.
have the beautiful computer in front of you. The technology that we have, what's it called? VR.
Culture, yeah. Bring it to your house.
From anywhere, okay?
Yeah.
Find a way. Be
You
creative.
make a way.
Yep.
You make it happen.
Manifestation.
And like you were saying, Sydney, what they do is to create those experiences without the need to travel is they call it around the world. So they create stations where you can have something, you know, showcasing the beautiful part of whatever part of the country that you want to experience. And then you kind of go around the world like you got a little passport and you go to that station, you get the little stamp on your passport. So you can create these things at home, you know, flashcards. I love flashcards, little instructional videos before YouTube was a thing. I mean, we got to get creative, go outside.
Yeah, sure.
Nature is a beautiful teacher, you know, so it's just kind of being a kid again and being fun, having some fun.
Yeah.
Quick question.
Nature is the teacher.
Did you ladies ever have a pen pal?
I did, yes.
I did too. We did it in school, and I thought it was so fun. Like it was very organized, you know, because we did the exchange student thing. So we, you know, we did the pen pal first, and then you know, if you were able to house your pen pal, they came and stayed with you. So I mean, I just wanted to see if you guys actually did that. I thought it was so cool.
I never stayed, but I had a couple pen pals.
Yeah, we had too many kids for someone to come stay with us. So.
Yeah, it was two. My household was 2 packed. There's no way. Yeah, I feel that. That's such wow. How nostalgic.
So, what was your What was your most memorable moment coming up through these institutions? Were they overall positive, negative? Like, if there was one thing that you can say you remember about your educational experience, what would that be?
That's a good question.
That is a good question. I didn't learn so much in middle school because I was just so distracted in other things. But I do remember high school. I had a teacher there, sweet lady. She was a English teacher. And she made everyone, it was my senior year, she made everyone write a 20-page paper. And I feel like from there, and now it was hard. I'm not gonna lie, 20 pages. Yeah, it was hard. But I feel like because of that, I learned how to write so great, so that when I went to high school, writing was just a piece of cake. And it was like I would BS the heck out of paperwork and get A's. And then my professors would be like, you know, you should change your major to journalism. And it's like, that's not for me, but I'm really great at it. And I feel like it was because of her. And then, you know, there's some other people, some other teachers or professors that I remember that, like, you know, they had so much to them that it was just like, they inspire me. I want to be like that, you know? I can't think of like examples right now, but I do remember a couple of teachers that I was like, wow, man, they're smart. You know, they're very wise.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my experience.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Taisha. Sydney?
Well, is it a good experience? I'm sorry, I want to relay.
Most memorable. I don't know. You'll have to tell us.
So honestly, okay, since you brought up a teacher, I guess my most memorable thing is I have a teacher, his Mr. D, okay, Mr. DeForest, and he basically was like, he became a father figure after. So he was actually my gym teacher, okay, and his family like lived, and his kids were around our age, so we hung out with his kids, and he was my gym teacher, always just the best, always took care of me, you know. And then my dad passed away, and he kind of like stepped in and filled that role for his kids, would take us mini golfing and do all these things. To this day, 32 years old now, he still checks up on me. I still call him Papa D. Like, that's still another father figure to me. And he's my most memorable thing of school, is because, you know, he gave so much support. I created a whole nother family. Him and his wife and their kids are Yeah, I'd say they're my most memorable because
Yeah.
he helped me get
That's
through a lot
beautiful,
of,
Sydney.
yeah, he helped me get through a lot of the grief. Just
MJ,
Mhm.
how about you?
I would say my most memorable part of high school was just being an opportunity to. They would pull me out of class in middle school to do like knowledge bowls and quiz bowls online and stuff, and get to kind of be with the other kids that were kind of smart and be around smart kids and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one teacher, she ran it. Her name was Miss Colleen, and she was cool, and she just kind of was always challenging us to think things through. She would give us all kinds of between those knowledge bowls and those quiz bowls and stuff like that. She would give us like just really hard ideas to think it through, and I
mm,
just credit her with that because maybe I'm over analytical now, but I enjoy kind of chewing on things and
Mm-hmm.
kind of dissecting things, and I value her. She was really awesome, and just as a person too, you know. So,
yeah,
That's
Love
beautiful.
it.
People make a difference in our lives.
Yes, for
How
sure.
about you, Lena?
yeah.
So mine is not a good one.
Hmm.
Okay, because school, I mean, I was very smart. I graduated top 10 in the class, but it wasn't fun for me. Mainly because my mom was a teacher at where I went to school. So if it wasn't the students picking on me, it was the teachers
Oh,
threatening to call my mother. Even if I was just not doing anything, you know, act right. I'm gonna call your mother. We'll call her.
Mhm.
So it
mm,
wasn't the most pleasant thing in the world going to school, but education was very important. Obviously, my mom was a teacher, so I
yeah,
Mhm.
couldn't get really bad grades.
yeah,
But yeah, so school was just school.
Hmm.
Got it.
I
You're like,
sympathize
I
with
just
you
wanted to
though.
get through it.
yeah.
I just
I
wanted to.
sympathize. My mom wasn't a teacher, but she stayed at the schools. So
Ah,
I'm there.
so Dr.
Like all the teachers, the principals, everybody knew my mom personally.
I love that.
I
Oh,
love it.
Tasha was naughty.
now I want to
Yes,
know, Tasha,
yes.
what was you doing? Like you said, you was
I will not even go there with
Oh
y'all.
my God.
All the stuff.
Talking,
another
probably
episode.
fighting. What were you doing,
Man,
Tasha?
thank God for the growth.
Oh
Okay.
Yeah.
my God. Well, I'll say for me, one of the things that I remember mostly is I caught the acting bug then in high school.
Yeah.
Mm.
I met one of my best friends for life. She's here in Atlanta, and we've been friends since then. And we both met auditioning for Guys and Dolls. And
Oh,
so she got an acting role, and it was beautiful. And I got this small little part, which I loved so much, where I was just a glam girl who walked out with the fancy cigarette and the cigarette holder, blew my cigarette 2 times, and walked off stage. Like that
I know
was
that's right.
get it.
I loved it. I loved it. And so it's been a joy of mine ever since. So I found acting in
Yeah.
high school.
I love
Oh, that's a great one. That's a great one.
that is.
Yeah. Thank
Well,
you.
ladies, you're so very pretty smart, and that's why you're here. That pretty much wraps up our show. Does anybody have any last minute things they want to say? Any advice?
I do. So just to go back to what you were saying, Sydney, with your story, I think it is so important for these teachers to really, take it as a passion and not necessarily just a job,
Mhm.
because the kids really do need them. There are kids that do have issues at home, and school is their safe haven. So having teachers that will really be there for them, it's touching. And then I know earlier somebody had mentioned how like some teachers will create a budget and bring stuff in for the kids. Like that
Mhm.
kind of stuff is important too. Yes, like teaching kids different than what is just in the books is very, very important, and showing that love and compassion for them, like that's really touching for them.
Yeah,
They will remember that.
I love that. The wise words of Taisha.
I love it.
I love it. Well, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We'll tune in next week, right?
Thank you. Yeah. Tune in next week.
All right. Bye.
Thank you, ladies.
See you.
Bye.